Integers x, y and z are the sides of an obtuse angled triangle. If x, y is equal to 4, then we need to find the measure of the third side. Now, if x, y is equal to 4, what values can x and y take? One of them can be 4 and the other one can be 1, or both of them can be 2. That are the only two options, because both of x, y and z, all the three of them are integers. So these are the only two cases possible. Now, when two sides of a triangle are given, then what do we know about the third side? The third side should lie between their difference and their sum. So what is the only integer lying between 3 and 5? It is just 4. So there is only one case possible here. What about this? The third side should lie between the difference, which is 0, and the sum, which is 4. What all cases are possible? You can have 1 and 2 and 3. So you have 3 possibilities. These are the 4 possibilities for any triangle. But then our triangle is not any triangle. It is obtuse angled. So how do we find which one of them is an obtuse angled triangle? Now these are the 4 options for getting any triangle, but what we are looking for is an obtuse angled triangle. Now how do we find out if the given angle is an obtuse angled triangle? If A, B and C are the sides of a triangle and A is the longest side, you have to see how A square is related to B square plus C square. If A square is less, you have an acute angled triangle. If A square is equal to B square plus C square, which is just the Pythagoras theorem, what you get is a right angled triangle. But if A square is greater, what you get is an obtuse triangle. But then without going into all of these calculations, just one look at it, you should be able to tell that this is the answer that we are looking for. Can you tell me why that is so? If you see this one, 2, 2, 2, what sort of a triangle is it? It is an equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangles are also equiangular. All the angles are equal to 60 degrees, which means what? It is an acute angled triangle. Now look at the other two options. You see here two greater, equally greater sides, which means they are also acute. Can you tell me why that is so? If you look at any triangle, the measure of a side is dependent on its opposite angle. Greater this angle, greater any angle gets, greater will be the side opposite to it. But then in an obtuse angled triangle, you can get only one obtuse angle. For example, suppose this is say 91 degrees. Then the other two angles together should be 89 degrees. So that added you get an 180 degrees. So the other two has to be acute. The other two have to be less than 91. You have a clearly great angle, which means you will have a clearly great side. So it means in an obtuse angled triangle, you will have one angle which is clearly greater than the other two angles, which means you will have a side which is clearly greater than the other two sides. But here you have two bigger sides. Two of these, both 4 and 4 are same, which means their opposite angles will be same, but those two angles cannot be obtuse angles, because you cannot have two obtuse angles. If these two are equal, which means 4 and 4, two equal sides, means their opposite angles are equal, and both of those angles have to be acute, because you cannot have two obtuse angles in one triangle. And it is the same here. Look at the 2 is greater than 1. You have two equal sides, which means they are two equal opposite angles. They cannot be obtuse. they have to be acute. If you have two equal angles, they have to be acute. They cannot be obtuse. So these two chances are gone. So that is the only option left. But then anyways, here take one of the longest sides and its square is 16. The sum of the squares of the other two sides is going to be 17. So there. It is going to be an acute triangle. Now go to this one. Take the largest side or the one of the largest side. Its square is 4. The sum of the squares of the other two is 5. Again, what you have is an acute angled triangle. So the last triangle, its greatest side is 3. The square is 9. The sum of the squares of the other two sides is 8. So there. What you have here, 2, 2 and 3 are the sides of an obtuse angled triangle, or in other words, any of these two can be x and y. The last one is 3. So that is the answer that we were looking for. Assalamu alaikum.